Gotta reset the mic. Hang on. Good afternoon. Happy Saturday. Hope everybody is staying cool. Shaggy SoCal Tool for Forza. And it's time for the first track guide for the new season of Thursday Night Thunder in this Porsche GT1 Strassen version or street version. I have the unfortunate privilege of being the one that had to do the tune for this car this season. So probably these will make these track guides a little more important since I kind of understand the car. But what we'll do is I'll just kind of do what I normally do. I'm going to run a few out laps in the car, and then I'll probably do the slow track walk with pointing out what this car likes, what it doesn't like, and then because I need to practice, I'm going to do a mock race, which what I think is the race length is. There's some other twists or at least changes that Matt might be introducing this season. I'm not sure what he's planning yet, so I think I'm just going to do this kind of based off what we did last season as far as weather and time of day settings and like that. So be that as it may, let's go ahead and get started. Let's get some out laps done and refresh my memory here. So car, let's go to fuel and tire. I want to make sure I'm going to run the softs, 50% fuel. Again, we're still going to run the 4X tire wear. I don't think that's changing for this season. And let's go ahead and get started. Start race. Now the car's, because I still have my gear shift, my manual gearbox hooked up in first gear. And the game's just like, oh, what gear do you have the selector in? First, let's put it in first. All right, let's go ahead and run the couple of out laps here. So the tune that I started with on this was something I did find online. This was set more as like a top of S-Class lobby tune, but for the specs that we run for the series, it didn't have race tires on it. I don't think it had aero on it. So I at least started with that tune as far as suspension settings and just kind of added the things I needed to for our spec. Made a couple of adjustments. As far as downforce, we are running max downforce on the car. Widen the tires out as much as I could. And then, I think the biggest thing I spent time on was just trying to get the gearing kind of at a good place. So generally, again, I'm not the world's most prolific tuner. Usually it's, if I can get something where I feel it's in the window, then it's easier for me to kind of work with the car's idiosyncrasies and make up for, versus trying to get in and try and tune something out, because then usually I go down a rabbit's hole and what is a decent car gets worse. And I've had that happen in HLCs where I've tried to do my own tune, and the first tune I come up with is kind of semi-decent, and I'm like, let me tweak this. I need to get this little bit more out of it, and then I wind up going slower. So again, I kind of got it to a decent window, and I figure we'll just all have to work with it. So the good things about it, it's got a good, I think the back of the car is very stable, especially at speed. The consequence is the front then gives up a little quicker. So the car does have a little bit of understeer. The goal I was trying to get to was to get something that was not going to be, snappy loose or do anything sudden. If it's gonna start to go out of shape, it's gonna give you plenty of warning. And I think that getting the back of the car, stable was the main thing. So front of the car does give up a little bit, probably a little bit sooner than you think it should. My feeling is it's in the really low speed corners like the hairpin here. It's not, the front's pretty good. When we get into high downforce, high speed turns, the front's pretty good. It might give up a little bit. It's those mid-speed corners where you're not getting a lot of help from the circuit. That's, it's flat, but you're not getting the full benefit of the downforce in the car. Those are, I think, the turns that, if you're going to notice the understeer depending on the tire you're on, those are the corners you're going to notice it the most at. And even though the back is pretty stable, it is possible to break it loose if you need to. For the gearing for the tune, I started with a 6-gear tune, but I think because we're going to Mulsanne later in the season, I went back and re-geared it to a 5-gear tune that will probably just use 5 gears for most of the circuits. And then 6 is kind of what I would call the drafting gear for the Mulsanne. And it worked pretty well. I may have underestimated the draft a little bit. I thought we'd get a little bit more of a slingshot, but no, it was actually, the racing was pretty good. Hopefully we can repeat that. So, all right, we've done 2 laps on the soft tire with about 50% fuel, which is usually when I do tire testing. That's when I try to measure wear. That's kind of the conditions I set up. We are at, yeah. we're not quite at 30% fuel, so, or wear on the front. So I would say for the soft tires at Sebring, you're probably going to get 5 laps out of them. Where 4 laps definitely. The 5th lap you're going to go to 60% before the end of that lap. So I think I spent a lot of time last season kind of really getting down to the lap as far as how long the tires last. But I think what tended to happen was it's for a one-stop strategy, it's usually hard medium. That the softs just do not last long enough. The tires don't last long enough where you could say, hey, we'll do a hard soft, because the hard tires last that long. So I again, if I'm only going to get 5 laps out of these, and usually it's about a 1 to 2 lap difference between the tires. So it's like 5 laps out of these, you might get 7 or 8 out of the mediums, and then 10 laps, 9 or 10 laps out of the hards. So when I get in the mock race, I'll do the hard medium, and then I can kind of get a little more accurate there. But I would say, given the nature of Sebring, it's probably in your best interest to do hard medium. I don't think the pit lane's pretty long. It is a long lap, but I don't know that you can do a 2-stopper and maximize the softs and make up the gap. That's my personal opinion. Others, if you're able to make that work, more power to you. But let's go ahead and do the kind of the slow track walk here, and just because I'm doing paddle shifting now, I'm going to go back just to manual so that I'm not having to constantly have to clutch if I decide to stop. Go ahead and hit save. All right. So coming down to turn 1, 4th gear, possibly 5th, depending on what your mood is. What I'm looking for, I'm going to back the car up slightly. What I'm looking for coming down the front straightaway is I am looking for as far as reference points, because I'm not going to run the braking line. I'm looking at the power lines here that cross over the front straightaway. That's usually my first telltale of what I'm going to kind of key off of. As I get to it, that's about where I'm going to brake, and then I'll start looking into the turn as far as figuring out what my turn in. At night, obviously not going to be able to see those power lines going across the circuit. So I'm going to be using the street light there, the lamppost there on the left side. That, because it's kind of right in that same spot, it's easy to spot. Well, in most nighttime conditions, it's easy to spot. I should be able to spot it even if it's like foggy or rainy. But that's what I'll be looking at, to get on the brakes to get into turn 1. 4th geared, this one, it really depends on the tire conditions. 4th gear, if the tire will hold and you can hold the speed, it does put the revs a little bit low. So 3rd gear, especially in traffic, might work best. As I'm turning in, I'm looking for the camber position. For me, the camber position isn't quite at the apex, but if I can start bringing the car in so that I'm close to the yellow line as I get to it, then I'm in a good spot for the apex. You might even say the apex is where the temporary lighting is there. Though at this point, I'm not really paying attention to what's on the other side of the fence. But again, unlike Forza 7, you can, the wall is the track limit, which is good. Thank you, turn 10. So you can get really close to that little yellow line. You can cross over it on the way out. Again, you can kind of see the ideal line on the pavement on the way out, slowly roll back into the throttle. This is one of those turns where even with max downforce in this car, with widest race tires that I could put on it, if you do carry too much speed in, the car is going to start to wash out. Usually the best thing I tend to do is if I notice the car starting to understeer, is I'm not gonna crank. I tend not to crank more wheel in because, yeah, it'll put more scrub on the front tires and it'll slow the car down. But then once they finally grip up, if they haven't overheated, the car is going to start to lurch to whatever direction I've turned it in. So my first instinct, usually when the car starts to wash, is probably keep the steering about the same and really either if I'm still partial throttle or like that'll back out of the throttle a little bit, maybe give it just a smidge brake. The whole idea is to get a little more weight in the front of the car and get the grip that way versus trying to throw more steering into it. So, but yeah, turn one, if you overcook it on the way in, the car is going to tend to want to wash on the way out. But you've got a lot of room on the exit, to kind of gather the car back up and bring it over. But again, out of turn one, bring the car out to the right side. You can get on that curving a little bit. So third gear, maybe up to fourth gear. So for me, breaking in these next series of turns, I'm going to be using the 300 board. If somebody knocks the 300 board down, then it is going to be at the kind of the timing line there, or the blend line that they kind of put across the track, conveniently at the same spot. So the 3, the 2, and the 100 board. So for me, it is the 300 board. Brake, 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 brake. Down to third gear, maybe second. I tend to do a little bit later turn in than what the rubber marks on the pavement suggest. Clip the inside curbing there a little bit, bring the car back across, and might get on this curb here. I try to keep the car to the right as much as I can to kind of line up with the curbing here on the right side. So for this final left-hander, we'll see how I do when I get into the race, but I tend to take, you can see it's like, you can see the rubber where the rubber's been laid down as far as it is a little bit narrow. It is a late apex corner. The question is how early do you turn in to get it to the inside and hold the late apex, which that sentence totally didn't make any sense. But what I tend to do is, at least for me initially, is I'll probably, be a little bit wider out before I turn in. And because I'm looking for to apex right about here. So, if you follow the line, the braking line probably is going to be more following what the rubber on the road looks like, where you take a little bit shallow of an entry, you're going to get to the inside curbing, but you're going to hold it there a little bit longer until you exit out onto the not so straight, but that's Lime Rock. That's not here. Bring the car out to the right side, heading through Big Bend. If you notice, not so much. We got a little bit more room under the bridge here, which is nice. So hopefully we won't have to worry about, running into tire barriers. Onto the new pavement, again down to Big Bend, third gear, fourth gear, maybe fifth gear, depends on your mood. Let the car come back over here to the left side, depending on the tire, and depending on your braking, depending on the tire. The softer the tire, the closer you can brake at the 400. You might even on the soft tire, you might be able to brake just past the 400 board. Certainly on the hard tire, you might be. I don't think you'll be braking. I kind of it's kind of I try to spot the 400 board, but then I also look for where the new pavement starts. And I think depending on conditions, depending on the tire, you're going to be braking, the harder compound, maybe in the middle of the night, you're going to be braking closer to where this new pavement starts. The softer tire in the heat of the day, or where you've got more grip, you can brake closer to that 400. I know in the rain, you're probably going to be getting on the brakes with the wet tires just before you, like right about here, like not even before you get onto the new pavement. So brake, 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 brake. For me, I take the hairpin out of second gear. second gear. So turn in is just past the 100 board. And now I don't know that I've hit it ideally yet, but you can get on the blue and white curbing. It's not horrible. Just I'd say try and stay off the yellow. 9 times out of 10, I'm probably going to be totally missing the apex through here. So I'll be on the cement. But on the way out, I usually just point the car straight ahead and straddle this curving here, so that I'm lined up on the right side here through this corner. Again, trying to be as straight as possible, accelerating up through the gears, up through second, up through third, up through fourth. Again, this is another one. If you want to wind it out in fourth, you probably can. If you want to put it to fifth, that's up to you. For me, braking here is at the 400 board. I don't know, regardless of tire, I think I'm consistently braking at the 400 board, and at least the initial lap on whatever tire I'm on, and then I will adjust from there. Brake, 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 brake. For me, this next right-hander is second gear easily. Third gear, if I get the turn in right, um, I might be able to carry the speed in third. But for me, then this is a late apex. When I've watched some onboards from Sebring, a lot of the GT cars, they'll actually use all of the exit out of this corner and then kind of hug the inside for the next. I tend not to do that as much. I tend to cheat. You know, when I was first learning Sebring, I was always trying to keep it way out here, trying to really keep it to the right side for this next set of corners. But I think, whoop, I wanted to reverse here a little bit. We'll see how I do when I get to speed, but I think what I tend to do is I tend to get it maybe about mid-track, maybe cheat a little bit to the inside. I'm not going all the way because again, this is still, this is a decent enough corner, that you got to be mindful of it. If you do it in second, um, if you're in third, you're fine. You can probably hold third all the way through. You might need to do a little confidence lift. If you're in second, I tend to in second gear. I'm going to short shift. Yes, do my really bad Sean Connery there. I'm going to short shift to third, one ping only. Um, but when I do short shift to third here, I'm probably also going to do just a brief lift of the throttle and right back on. Again, because I'm running manual with clutch, with a race transmission, even though I don't have to use the clutch to shift. It is harsh enough of a jolt, especially with the turbo spooled up. Yeah, I'm trying to minimize wheel spin at the back, especially as I'm starting to because you're kind of doing multiple things here. You're kind of turning in, you're shifting, you're kind of modulating, you're watching the wheel spin. The weight's starting to shift to the right side of the car. So whatever you can do to minimize, the back end stepping out, the better. Let the car come out, hold the throttle through here. Maybe if it starts to push, maybe a little lift and right back on. Kind of keep it just to the right of center through here. Heading to tower turn. Tower turn was this to me visually was the biggest change for me. Running this version as compared to like say the previous versions of Sebring in Forza 6 and Forza 7 definitely. Um, Braking, I'm gonna hedge my bets and I'm gonna say this is one with this car. It's incredibly easy to miss your braking or let the car get too far to the left, and then you get on the curbing in the grass and you're pulled off on the edge here. So for me, I'm going to be braking. I'm going to use the right side curbing as kind of my reference, as that's kind of going out of view. That's when I'm going to be getting to the brakes to get the car slowed down. I am going to try and give myself some wiggle room. The hard part here is you're still going to have a little bit of right steering. There's still going to be a little bit of weight on the left side of the car. So depending on how you do your braking, if you brake too harshly, the car is it's gonna stop turning to the right. That slight right, it's then gonna start going straight. So you got to be careful with the braking there. Give yourself a little wiggle room on the left side, so that in case you do miss the braking, the car kind of understeers at that point. That you're not going off, you're not dropping left side tires. For me, again, I think just visually, this turn looks different now. I'll tell you one thing: it is a lot bumpier than I remember it being in previous games. So, for me, this is second or third depending on, again, depending on the tire, depending on traffic, depending on do I get it right. I think if I get it right and I'm able to carry speed in, carry grip in, I'll try and do it in third. I think it makes the exit a little bit easier. Otherwise, I'll do it in second, pop it out to third. Excuse me, heading down the last couple of corners before the back stretch. For this next double apex left-hander, during the daytime, it's pretty easy to see. At night, it is not. So trying to do it by feel, I would say, yeah, as you get to this curbing, as you hit this curbing on the right side, that's when you want to do your slight turn in for the first part, and just clip the inside of this curbing. In the daytime when you can see it, you can make those little adjustments with the wheel. You really shouldn't need to lift if you get it right. Maybe a little bit of a lift if you start to push. But ideally, for the second apex here, either stay off the curbing or you can just barely clip it. This is the one curbing I would say don't abuse this curbing because it does. You're carrying a lot of speed. The weight's shifted to, let's see, yeah, the weight shifted to the right side of the car, and it's enough of a jolt that the car is gonna be a little bit unsettled right when you need to get to the brakes to brake for I think these are the Le Mans corners. So try and just clip it if you can. Just barely clip the inside portion of this curbing. The car's going to want to come out to about the center of the road, and then for me, braking is right about where that left side curbing ends. We'll see how I do as I get into rhythm. I think in previous Forzas, I always try to apex the second part of this curbing as late as possible to keep the car as much to the left side as I can. I think now, at least right now, I'm tending to let the car kind of cheat to the middle of the track. I don't want to go past that though. So I think if you can keep the car to the left side, that's probably better. First gear, brake, down to third gear, and this curbing, if I get the turn in right, again, I take a slightly different line than what you can see the rubber on the track wants to do. This is these next couple of corners where I was talking about earlier how the car is really good. It's got good mechanical grip and really in the slow corners and the high downforce ones. It's pretty good there. These next couple of medium speed corners is where there's not enough downforce in the front of the car to get the front tires optimal grip. You're gonna have to pay attention to what the front of the car is doing, because this is where I think you'll notice most of the understeer that you're going to get is these next 2 or 3 corners. But for me, this will be a third gear. I'll probably get on this curbing, cross over a little bit, cross back over, keep it to the left side here. If you notice, we don't have corners. We don't have cones out here anymore to kind of denote, because it was kind of a good reference point of braking is also where track limits were. But you can see the discoloration of the pavement from cars that have kind of cheated over the white line to set up for the turn onto the back straight here. So for me, I am going to be kind of braking at where this starts, because you can kind of see it's kind of like a half crescent circle or whatever. Yeah, that's the shape I see with my old eyes. But it is a brake here, third gear, turn the car in. Now the curbing here, the symmetry of the curbing isn't, in the nature of this corner, it's not, I don't think it's quite perfect 90 degrees, but the symmetry of the corner, also, it does sharpen up at the latter half of the corner. So that's where, it doesn't, it's easier to see at speed, but it'll kind of flat, and then it'll take a slightly sharper angle late on the inside curbing. If I do it right, that's where I'm trying to apex at. Probably get on the curbing a little bit here, start to roll out. You will understeer. This is one of those trying to get back to throttle. The car's going to understeer. I'm sorry. You're just going to have to deal with it. We're all going to have to deal with it. But you can get on the curbing here. It's not, this curbing isn't horrible. So if you do happen to get your left side tires on this curbing on the exit, fine, just then bring it back over. Obviously, you don't want to get past that onto the dirt, onto the grass, because then then you're in trouble. Um, but you'll notice I think those corners, I think you'll really notice the understeer, especially when it gets in the middle of the night. And heaven forbid we have to do this in the rain. Heading down the final straightaway down towards Sunset, Sunset Bend. Again, I'm looking at the boards here on the left side. For me, it is the 200 board is where I'm going to turn in and brake. So I'll start turning in just before the 200 board, and I'll definitely brake just at it or just past it. And what I'm trying to do is actually I'm a little bit further inside than I will normally be during the race. But I'm trying to get the car to the yellow line as the cement wall kind of bends in, to the right here. Brake, 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 down to fourth gear, down to third gear, about halfway through, then turn it in. I'm still working on the line through here. I tend to keep it inside more because I'm aiming for the grass here on the inside before I really get back to throttle. And I'm looking for the temporary lighting. In practice, this is the other weird thing. In practice, I'm looking for the temporary lighting pole as kind of to help guide me out onto the front straightaway. During the race, there's a big inflatable gear thing that's easier to spot. But bring the car out. Again, track limits have been improved. You can go out across this white line. The wall uh, tends to be the track limit. So you can use a lot more of the exit than we could in the past, and bring the car back across. And that's Sebring. It's a lot bumpier than I remember in previous Forzas as well, but the Porsche seems to it does handle it fairly well. I don't notice any bottoming. So, all right, that's Sebring. What we're going to do now is I'm gonna run a mock race and see what happens here. So let's go ahead and get out of this. And actually, it's been a few weeks since I've done streaming. I also need to reset uh, the mic so that we don't get poppy staticky stuff at the end of the broadcast. So let me go ahead and pause the stream. We'll reset the mic. We'll get into the mock race and let's see what the medium hard tires do. Pause. Resume. All right, let's go ahead and reset the mic. Okay, so for my own practice race, because I need to practice, I'm going to kind of base it off of the rules that we did last season. Um, the things that I think Matt was still debating, and I'm not sure if I think when I asked him, because I said, hey, I'm going to be doing track guides, what are we doing for time progression? I don't think he's really settled on that yet. So I'd say, who knows what we're going to have on Thursday? So just be ready for anything. And let's go ahead. We'll go to the Porsche here. So we'll do circuit, Sebring International Raceway, full circuit, number of laps. I think it's going to be about 17. It's somewhere in there. At least based off of my own thought, or at least my own experiments. Starting time of day, I'm going to do random again. This is one of the areas where I think he's gonna adjust it, because again, previous seasons we were doing rolling 24 times on the time scale, which would mean our races, for the 35-minute race, it would simulate about 12 hours of real time in that race. I think he's going to lessen that. I just don't know if it's because again we have 2, we have 4. It's either going to be 4 or 12. So either we're going to have a 6-hour race or a 2-hour race as far as time wise. I think the reason why he wanted to reduce the time scale is also with the possibility of doing variable weather, and maybe it's not so sudden harsh when it comes through. Not sure what's going to happen yet. So I think for this race, I'm going to do it at times 12. So 35-minute race, it's roughly 6 to 7 hours, versus 12 to 13 from last season and season prior. Whether I'm going to do random, I'm still going to do the hey, if it's raining, I'm not going to do a rain race for practice. I will say with rain tires, where you got to protect the fronts on the dry tires, the rain tires watch your rears. They will go off. They will wear faster than the fronts, and you should be able to get about half the race distance on them. Dynamic track rubber on. We'll start at 50. Difficulty 8. Designs on. Number of drive tires. All the drive tires. Cars. I do want everybody in the same. So let's get to Porsche. And I love GT1 starts in version. And rules. Sport rules. 4 times tire wear. Standing start. We go random. End of race timer. Doesn't really matter. And we'll do 1 mandatory pit stop. And I think that's good. What do we got? Okay. I might have to re-roll weather, but tell us about Sebring.
Running its first race in 1950, Sebring Raceway is one of the oldest continuously operating tracks in America and plays host to the prestigious 12 hours of the Sebring Endurance Race.
12 hours of Sebring. All right, so yeah, thunderstorm. We'll do the 6 p.m. start. This is where I'm kind of like 6 p.m. No, we'll do 6 p.m. start. That'll be fine. But I do want to re-roll weather. So let's go to event setup. And we'll go to evening, time progression rolling. No, not thunderstorm. Try again, Forza. Mostly clear. Okay, I'll do mostly clear. But we are starting at 6 p.m., which means we're driving into the night, which means we're going to be dealing with Sunset Bend at sunset. This is going to be very interesting. All right. Go to settings. Let's go back to manual with clutch. Go ahead and save that. And for the car, now we know 5 laps on the softs. That's not going to be near enough for a 17-lap race. I'm going to try and do 1 stop. But what we'll do for fuel and tire, we're going to start on the hards. And I'm actually going to set fuel for 17 laps. One more, 18. There we go. So we'll do hard tires. So again, that should get, let's say if it's 5, 7. Yeah, if we can get 10 laps out of, we'll see if we can get 10 laps out of the hards. If I can get 10 laps out of the hards, I should be able to get 7 to 8 out of the mediums. And well, let's find out. This is why we practice. And start race. Okay, gear shifts in first gear, so it's not going to pop to 4th on me without warning. Since I'm starting towards the front, I'm going to try and get to the outside and then let everybody by. Or maybe I'll just keep it on the inside and let everybody by. Come on, go around me. Go around. Thank you. And we'll stick. What I'll probably do is I'm just going to stay in last place for these first couple of corners. It's a long enough race, and I think pace-wise, I should still be able to get my way mostly to the front. But again, part of the reason I do this is I do want traffic to work through. So I at least can set up some situations where I can figure out what this car's going to do during the race. Okay. Really, going to go 3 wide through there? That's what I thought. Granddad's taking a look there on the right. Excuse me. Again, I don't know how. I know I've got the driver difficulty set to 8, but I always think it's like, okay, well, the guys in the front are going to be the fastest guys, but then, like, I find it hard to believe that these cars back here are also level 8 drivatars. Yeah, so whatever scaling they do. Again, it's like I'd love to have a little bit of a stronger depth of field, I guess is the right word there. But that's me. Oh, somebody's pitting early. A little room there on the inside. Hit me. Oh, is the sun going to be brutal? Turned in a little too early. You can almost get 4. I haven't experimented with where the actual track limit is, on that right hander onto the straightaway here, but you can almost get all 4 tires over the white line. Pushing a little bit wide. See, there's the big gear. I figure we'll do a tire check. If I remember, I'll do a tire check about lap 5, at the end of lap 5, and if my theory is correct, it should be hopefully under 30% on the fronts. That's about the best I've taken that in a while. Very easy to overcommit on the entry to that corner and just then have the car understeer. Seconds to voodoo. I haven't really been paying attention to intervals until I saw Granddad behind me, but it looks like he just went into the pits. little bit late. I'll take a freebie. Thank you. Oh, this is going to be really horrible. So, bridge. And I think I've mentioned it on previous times we run Sebring. If you ever really completely miss the braking for the hairpin, it's almost easier just to go straight and then just take the escape road and merge back onto the track. Let me take that in a second. Oh dear Lord. So that's why they call it Sunset Bend. Holy crap. 4, 3, 2. I was just about to say, headlights would be nice right about now. Yeah, the car's a little bit too much speed going in. What? Yeah, definitely the track temp has gone down because the grip is just that little, that's just enough less grip that you notice it. I was a little bit late on the braking, still managed to keep it on the circuit. Okay, where are we at on tires? Okay, yep, so it is about 10 laps before they fall off a cliff. The danger about cutting that curb is, well, you saw the adjustment, you saw the counter steer I had to throw in coming off the curbing. That's probably a little more curving than should take it there. A little bit too, a little bit late on the braking. Oops. So hard at night to see that second apex. Well, the back end is pretty planted. You do want to be smooth on getting back to throttle, because it is possible to spin the rear tires up if you're a little too stabby. Yeah, definitely. Probably an adjustment I'm going to need to make in the race. Hard tires at night. You know, I'm trying to carry the speed through in third, and really should probably drop it to second. There's just not enough grip. Okay, Voodoo must have been running mediums. little bit early in the second part there, pushing wide. Alright, so we will box this lap. Oh, Enigma's got into a little bit of a tank slapper back there. Oh, come on. Yep. It's time to get off these tires. Alright, so... 2. Turn. Come on, keep going. There we go. Okay. So yeah, about 10 laps on the hards. We're going to go to mediums to finish the race out. We don't need fuel. My guess then, again, it's 5 to 10, so the mediums are going to be somewhere in between. So 5, 6, 7, 7 to 8 laps, roughly. So we'll see how that plays out over the course of the race. Let's see if I can actually get into some passing situations. It'd be nice to actually, have some on-track passes. Okay, so it does release you. Be careful getting back to the throttle. I wouldn't hold the throttle down at all. Wait until the game releases you, then roll back into it. Because it, at least to me, I think the game releases you out of the pits in an awkward place. Because you're kind of half turning and easy enough to spin the wheels up. Waddy's off. Stay over there. Stay over there. Feel like really trying to force that, but I'll take the exit. late. Whoops. Ah.
Time penalty is about half a second.
I was doing so well. So we are definitely, you know, if I had to hazard a guess, and I'm slowly reeling Voodoo in, his Drivatar probably started on the medium tires and went to hards. I have done the opposite. I just don't know if I've got enough time to catch him. Yes, script, I love thee. Again, a little too early. The initial turn-in was fine. It was just the second half of Sunset there turning too early. Yeah, a little bit of understeer is easier to just drop it down to the second to help get the car out. That's a little better. Four after 3 laps. Yeah, we'll be, 7 laps is probably going to be about it for the mediums. Should be between 50 and 60% on the last lap. Point 9 to Voodoo.
3 remaining.
Copy that. Oh, shit. I was thinking about something else and totally missed the braking. Brain fart. Brain fade. Don't have the braking line to tell you when to brake. You can't lose focus. Probably on tires. 37. Okay, so the question is can I catch Waddy and at least get 8th place back? Oh, never mind.
Last lap. Let's go.
A little bit late on that braking. I wonder what happened there. Despite my brain fade, I got gifted a couple of spots. And that is Sebring. Oh yeah, I wasn't going to catch 101 at the front. Again, looks like a couple of the, again, a couple of the, yeah, I did make 2 stops, and unfortunately don't know what tires they were running or what the relative pace was. But again, soft tires get you about 5 laps. You get about 7-ish on the mediums. You might be able to squeak out the 8th lap, but then you're going to be well into the 60%. And then the hard tires will get you 10. You'll get 10 laps, and you'll just hit 60%. Probably late in that lap. But that is Sebring in this Porsche. Again, hopefully I did well enough on the tune that the racing is good. That was my goal. It wasn't so much about outright lap speed. I wish Forza would go and fix how the livery editor works with the Forza ring on the car, but that is the Porsche. So I'll probably take a break for a couple of hours, and then the other circuit for this first week of racing is Road America. So we're going to get 2 really good road courses out right in week 1. So I hope you guys are having a great weekend. Again, hopefully you're staying cool. It was I think Santa Clarita. We hit. I think somebody said it was almost 113. I think at one point yesterday. We're a little over 100 today, and hopefully we'll cool down to the 90s. But it's dry heat, so again, hope you're having a good weekend. Drink plenty of water, and happy racing. Nope. There we go.